It used to be, as most of you know, that journalists were speaking truth to power, trying to inform us to keep the people safe so that we could understand if corrupt powers are using their power for corrupt ends. But now, of course, as most of you already know, and you don't need me to say it, journalists are just vehicles for corruption to persist. They are masks worn by the corrupt to protect their corrupt activities and cover up malfeasance. Check out this tweet from Crystal Ball. New York Times response to the Ohio train derailment is to suggest those concerned about the continued health impacts and environmental fallout are right-wing conspiracy theorists. That's right. The New York Times writes Chernobyl 2.0, Ohio train derailment spurs wild speculation. For many influencers across the political spectrum, claims about the environmental effects of the train derailment have gone far beyond known facts. Yeah, but they, at the New York Times, just say you're right wing. You're right wing if you think the government lied about what's going on. Hey, can I show you something? Can we talk about what's going on? How about this one? From Timcast.com, Biden administration says Ohio is ineligible for federal disaster assistance. State officials have warned a chemical plume in the Ohio River is expected to reach Huntington, West Virginia. Hey, hold on there a minute. What's that? State officials are warning a chemical plume is moving downriver and is going to toxify the waters in Huntington, West Virginia. Uh-oh. Sounds like something really bad's going on. But I know we can rely on the New York Times to give us the facts, right? I'll tell you what, my friends, if you want to support the show, become a member at timcast.com. And more importantly, share this video with people who might still trust this news enterprise, because I'm going to show you facts. Here's what the New York Times writes. Since a train carrying hazardous materials derailed in Ohio nearly 2 weeks ago, residents have feared for their safety. A controlled burn of the toxic materials has filled the air and covered the surface water and soil with chemicals. Dead fish have floated in nearby creeks, and an unnerving aroma has lingered in the air. But for many commentators from across the political spectrum, the speculation has gone far beyond known facts. Right-wing commentators have been particularly critical. Here we are. The enemy is the right-wingers, using the crisis to sow distrust about government agencies and suggest the damage could be irreparable. On social media, like Twitter and Telegram, commentators have called the situation the largest environmental disaster in history, or simply Chernobyl 2.0, invoking the 1986 nuclear disaster. Wow, Guy, do you really need to say that? They warned, without evidence, that vital water reservoirs serving states downriver could be badly contaminated. I love it! Let's talk about how Stuart A. Thompson, who wrote this, couldn't even bother to do a Google search before writing this and wants to call you supporting things without evidence. How about you don't even bother to look for the evidence? Downriver. State officials have warned a chemical plume in the Ohio River is expected to reach Huntington, West Virginia. And hey, Timcast.com, 82 out of 100 NewsGuard certified. Thanks, NewsGuard. Here we go. The Federal Emergency Management Agency told Ohio that it does not qualify for disaster assistance after 50 train cars derailed. We get it. DeWine also requested the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the CDC. The EPA is working, et cetera, et cetera. DeWine's office and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources have warned that a chemical plume in the Ohio River is expected to reach Huntington, West Virginia on February 17th. That's today. In a press release, the governor's office said the plume is comprised of butyl acrylate, a clear, colorless liquid notable for its fruity odor. No vinyl chloride has been detected in the Ohio River. Hey, that's strange. There's a link. There's a link from Timcast.com, NewsGuard certified, to MSN.com, citing WOWK Charleston, CBS 13, Ohio Governor DeWine, chemical plume to be near Hunting, West Virginia sometime tomorrow. What's that? They're saying that the chemicals in the water are flowing downstream. Let's read what this moron over at the New York Times just wrote about last night. He said, but for many commentators across the spectrum, suggesting the damage could be irreparable. They warned, without evidence, that vital water reservoirs serving the state downriver could be badly contaminated. Oh, I see the game he's playing. They warned about West Virginia's water reservoirs, not Ohio's. Without evidence? You mean a statement from the state themselves that a chemical plume is floating downriver? These people are evil. It's either the banality of evil or they're actively seeking to cover up for and protect the Biden administration. Hey, here's your right-wing conspiracy theory. You didn't do any research, New York Times. I have a quote from state officials saying it's happening, and then you write this garbage. So I can only assume your goal is to dismiss the story to protect people based on political affiliation. But hey, I don't know that for sure. My only evidence is you're lying. And they suggested that the authorities, railroad companies, and the mainstream news media were purposefully obscuring the full toll of the crisis. Please, those of you that are trying to explain to people how the New York Times lies, just show them this. I am a reasonable man. Okay? I will try and break this down and steelman it to the best of my abilities. Perhaps this article was written before he knew that they released, there was a press release put out by state officials, literally right here, warning that it's flowing downriver. Maybe he just made a mistake. That's a fair point. Maybe this guy is just so bad at his job at the New York Times that he did not even Google search Ohio River contamination. Maybe he didn't bother to make a single phone call. Maybe this purported news piece, that's it. It's not listed as opinion anywhere I don't see. Maybe this purported news piece is just an opinion piece masquerading as news. Okay. So I'll tell you this. If you find yourself showing a relative this video, trying to explain to them that media lies all the time, they may be saying, well, maybe he just made a mistake. Yeah, okay, yeah, maybe he just made a mistake. So how many articles have you read from the New York Times where they made mistakes? How many times have you caught it? You see, there's the problem. Now, don't get me wrong. There are people online who lie all the time. But I can show you right here. Ohio from MSN, press release, Ohio state government saying it is happening. It is flowing downriver. This is a chemical plume. Here we go. What does it say? They suggested the authorities could be obscuring it, planned attack, or cover up, or both. Asked Conservative Daily Podcast, a program known for pushing far-right talking points. What does that even mean, far-right talking points? So now that you've been introduced to how the media is lying, and they're accusing anybody who is calling this out of being right-wing, maybe now you'll realize when they say right-wing, they're usually just lying to scare you. Some of that speculation was echoed by mainstream outlets like Fox News, which suggested the fallout could be catastrophic. And it could. You better punch in at 9 a.m., Ohio. Even if it means inhaling mustard gas on the way in, said a sarcastic Jesse Waters, the Fox News host. Ohio town looks like Chernobyl. It does look like Chernobyl. You see, this is the thing. You have a giant black plume of smoke, of burning chemicals, hydrogen chloride, which bonds with water and becomes acid rain. And you can see it in the sky. And people said that looks like Chernobyl. Are they saying the event in question is reminiscent of the historical moment, comparable to the disaster? Or are they saying it physically just looks like it? The Environmental Protection Agency and state officials have acknowledged that the situation in East Palestine, Ohio, is disastrous in many ways. After the train derailed on February 3rd, a fire broke out, and about 50 of the 150 cars were derailed or damaged. Fearing an explosion, officials ordered nearby residents to evacuate before conducting a controlled burn. Yes, we all know this. Since then, the EPA said the air quality has returned to safe levels. Residents have been allowed to return. A chemical odor lingers because people can smell the contaminants even when they are far below hazardous concentrations, according to the agency. Yes, and the dead chickens, foxes, and other livestock, that's just a coincidence. The air is perfectly safe to breathe for you, just not the animals. Wonderful. Water testing found no indication of risk to public water systems. So far, the EPA said, though private wells should be tested. Utilities drawing from the Ohio River were taking precautions, and at least one company said it had not detected any changes in the water. Oh, no changes in the water. I have a video. And this is why people believe in the conspiracies, and they don't trust you or the government. Because in the video, you can see chemicals in the water. In the video, J.D. Vance, a politician, is showing something is wrong with the water. So when you come out with your report and you're like, everything's fine, keep drinking. Nobody believes you. After Flint, I love how the New York Times has the gall to just spew this vomit into our faces. Everybody knows what happened in Flint. And we're supposed to trust the government when they say the water is safe to drink? Nice try. At a town hall meeting on Wednesday, frustrated residents pressed officials for assurances that the air and water were safe. Experts urged caution as they assessed the long-term consequences, warning that airborne contaminants can settle on surfaces, seep into wells, and migrate through cracks into basements and homes. Yet influencers and right-wing commentators were quick to draw the conclusions of their own, theorizing about the extent of the damage at the federal response, which they have said amounted to an extensive cover-up. It's really a scary thing, said Nick Sorter, a video journalist who has covered the situation for Tucker Carlson. Well, they forced the COVID vaccines on the country, Carlson replied, so I think they can't be trusted. Pete Buttigieg, who oversees railroads, has become the target of criticism. Yeah, because he's incompetent. Online, some non-scientists wrote elaborate analyses about the toxic chemicals, speculating that the airborne concentration of vinyl chloride, one of the chemicals being carried in the train, was dangerously high. They rebuffed the EPA's assessment that the air was safe, concluding instead that the surrounding area of East Palestine was badly contaminated for miles. Mind you, I am no chemist, but simply looking at what these compounds can do is worrying, wrote one user on the chat app Telegram in an analysis claiming the toxins would have been safer if not burned. Interesting. Well, the argument there is that vinyl chloride is heavy. Some have said that it's like liquid. I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to pretend to know. And that burning it off created hydrogen chloride, which goes into the atmosphere. Now, it can produce acid rain, and that's on the government's. That's government website. Local media reports described several environmental consequences from the controlled burn, including that some fish were found dead in nearby creeks and that some domesticated animals had fallen sick. You see how they play that game? Without evidence about animals dying or whatever, and then at the bottom, like, well, animals did die. Great. But those reports quickly melded with unconfirmed and far more severe reports of environmental harms extending far beyond the burn site. Dead fish and cattle being reported as far as 100 miles away from the site, wrote Stu Peters, a right-wing commentator on Twitter, offering no evidence. I just absolutely love how they do this. Here's Newsbreak.com, one of their contributors. Newsbreak, of course, 82.5 out of 100, certified by NewsGuard. Concerns raised about food supply after livestock die near chemical leak in Ohio, home to 75,000 farms. Here's my point. We know animals are dying. We know livestock have become ill, and some have died. Chickens have died, foxes. Now, as for dead fish and cattle, if people are reporting this, why is this guy wrong? Why are they saying that this guy is wrong, but a local news outlet that argues something very similar nearby is right? Do you see how the game works? If a local journalist says, not, like as a witness, not as someone presenting hard evidence that, yes, fish are dead, then the New York Times says, well, okay, I guess. But if Stu Peters says, I'm hearing reports that even further away, they go, that's unsubstantiated rumor. All of it is, or none of it is. Pick one. The belief in a cover-up has gained steam in the last days since, as internet users used the hashtag #OhioChernobyl to claim that the national and local media were ignoring the disaster. Now, I certainly do think some people are panicking. Fine. Those claims were emboldened after a reporter for News Nation was arrested while filming a report at a news conference. The charges were later dropped. Yeah, they said he was being very noisy. Well, I got some good news for you. Here are the comments. Here's what the comments say. First, Mike says, could it be that right-wingers are blaming government to shift attention away from their paymasters or to obscure the, oh my God. Look at what these people believe. The good news, don't worry, we'll come to it. It's terrible how those on the far right in America have apparently turned into real clowns. But at the same time, some of their unproven claims may turn out to be true in the long run. If this happens, they will only be more emboldened. The normal media really needs to cover this objectively and get some legitimate experts to acknowledge the risks and disaster posed to the community without politics. Let me show you a video. Here's a lady. Here we go. Let's play the video. Hey, look, she threw a rock in the water. And then what? Let's just, oh, what's that? There's a weird rainbow.
Wow.
Whoa. Look at all that.
Look at it.
It's all in the bottom of the creek bed.
So what we're seeing, for those that are listening, chemical plumes in the water. A statement from Ohio Governor DeWine that a chemical plume is flowing downriver. Here's J.D. Vance. He's a politician.
Leslie Run, and there are dead worms and dead fish all throughout this water.
Dead worms and dead fish.
Let me just show this to people. I don't know if you're going to see this on the camera, but watch this. Just see that chemical pop out of the creek. This is disgusting.
He scrapes the creek and a chemical plume bursts up. What's likely happening is that these chemicals are denser than the water, so they're sinking to the bottom and then resting. That is going to kill bottom feeders. It's going to make its way up, and then through bioaccumulation, it makes its way to you. That's why animals are dying. And the New York Times, this is the game they play. Let's see what else we got. Baydog says, I'm curious why this toxic train derailed in the first place. Was it a random accident? It's Ohio. If the residents are unhappy, they can relocate. The job market is great. Hyperbole attracts attention. Rather than amplify our anti-factual speculation, these people believe it all. All of this stuff, they believe it. Biden says they're not going to pay. J.D. Vance, senator, shows up and shows you the chemicals in the water.
Cleaned up the train crash. The fact that these chemicals are still seeping in the ground is an insult to the people who live in East Palestine. Do not forget these people. We've got to keep applying pressure. That's how we're going to fix this problem. Thank you.
This is a guy, J.D. Vance, who showed up by himself. I mean, of his own volition is a better way to put it, because he's got a crew, to show the people what's going on with the contaminations in the water. And what does the New York Times say? Let me show you again, just so you can understand. As they go on and on and on about how the right is conspiratorial and all of that, they say this. They warned without evidence that vital water reservoirs serving states downriver could be badly contaminated. What's a state downriver? Hey, West Virginia is a state downriver. What did DeWine say? That chemical plume is heading towards West Virginia. What if local politicians in West Virginia said, hey, we are concerned this is going to negatively impact our water reservoirs? There's a video going viral showing a woman boiling water and the bubbles harden. And that's her local water supply. Now, look, I don't know where that's from. I'm not going to speculate. Can't confirm its origins. We're just seeing people post videos on social media. Could be fake. There's a viral photo showing a car streaked in what appears to be acid rain. Okay, what are we supposed to assume? That people are faking these videos? It's possible. How about something simpler? We are seeing videos of chemical plumes floating in the water. We are hearing from the Ohio state government that the chemical plumes are flowing downriver. How that does not contaminate downstream water reservoirs? Of course it's going to. And this is the New York Times, who will spit in your face and lie to you and convince you that really it's all just the right-wingers, the old right-wingers. If it isn't related to global warming, no one seems to care about an environmental disaster. Well, I hear you. There are some people, I saw one comment that, look at this. When did the new conservative movement turn to a bunch of conspiracy theorists? It's kind of crazy that people pull up the New York Times and assume whatever is said in its pages are true without doing any research. And this is why I genuinely believe that the New York Times is intentionally doing this. Because they have to have editors and fact checkers, right? Okay. If they don't, it's the banality of evil. If they do, it means they're willfully lying to these people to manipulate them. Man. One person said, so you're going to point the finger at right-wing conservatives. Plenty of Americans of all political backgrounds are tired of corporations cutting corners on environmental and safety regulations. Who in their right mind is going to believe that the air quality is safe when there's a strong, unpleasant odor still in East Palestine? Given the state of the world, the people of East Palestine have the right to be skeptical of the government. Nope, you're all right-wingers. You're all right-wing conspiracy theorists. Crystal Ball. Hey, Crystal. What is this? Who are you? Crystal Ball. Crystal, Kyle, and friends, host of Breaking Points, Ella, Lolo, and Ida Rose's mama, author of best-selling book, The Populist's Guide to 2020. Well, Crystal Ball surely must be a right-wing conspiracy theorist. That's the only explanation. Because otherwise, she wouldn't be calling out the New York Times like this. Only right-wingers do that. Nah, I'm kidding. We all know Crystal Ball is more lefty. But Crystal's great. I'm a big fan. Excellent call out, Crystal. You see, there are some good people. There are many good people across the political spectrum. It's not just about being on the right or being on the left. Crystal Ball I think she's getting married to Kyle Kalinske. I don't know. He's like a lefty democratic socialist type guy, isn't he? I think they're both pretty great, actually. Kyle and Crystal are good people, but they're certainly not conservatives. So what does it mean then when even Crystal, for instance, is criticizing the New York Times for calling calling people conspiracy theorists and right wingers, etc.? Why don't they write an article about the left wingers who have said the exact same thing? Why don't they, quote the governor? chemical plume to be near Huntington, West Virginia, because they're lying to you. Because the whole purpose of what these activists do is manipulate the media so that you vote in their direction. And then nothing changes. Vote blue no matter who. That's what they say, right? Well, what they're telling you is that they won't do anything. If you vote blue no matter who, they're literally telling you they have no policy plan. They will enact no policies for you. Just vote for us because the right-wingers are evil. You see how it works? You see how those lies are generated? And people believe it. So here's what I can say. Share this video. I don't know. Look, if you're somebody who's been shared this video and you still don't believe me, just Google it yourself. Look this stuff up. There are certainly people who are hyperbolic or scared, but the New York Times has published fake news, whether it's intentional or not. They claimed that people were citing without evidence that chemicals were going to impact water reservoirs. We quite literally have the governor warning downriver, other states will be impacted. And if you're trying now to argue to me that a chemical plume floating through a river will not impact our water reservoirs, I think you're 100% wrong and desperately trying to justify the New York Times' lies. But hey, if you don't want to believe me, good luck. The rest of you can become a member at timcast.com. Click the Join Us button. Support our work. Thanks for hanging out. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m., and we'll see y'all there.